Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Six Round Post Fight Show with me, Zane Simon. I'm here once again with my co host, Eddie Mercado. We are coming to you just after the close of UFC on ESPN 6, although technically it's UFC on ESPN 2, but whatever. Reyes versus Weidman. Chris Weidman making his light heavyweight debut, and it looked a lot like his last couple middleweight fights.
Man, you know the trend is to move up and strike, not move up and wrestle.
Yeah.
All this recently. Who did this happen to recently? Like they moved up and they tried to grapple and it didn't pan out. I feel like we saw this.
Well, we've seen. James Vick. No, James Vick didn't try to. Well, he did.
It was middleweight to light heavyweight.
Middleweight to light heavyweight. Oh, who was that?
I know it happened recently.
I'm sure it's happened recently. Yeah, I couldn't pick it out immediately, but
anyways, yeah, tough. It's tough to see, man. Like, I wanted Weidman to win. I really did. Like, nobody needed to win more than him. And like, usually we see it all the time. Guys move up and they have tremendous success, but Weidman just isn't. He's just not that dude anymore.
No.
And all credit to Reyes. I mean, he was able to fight off the takedowns. And when he did get taken down, he got back to his feet and capitalized on his moment. He played to his strengths. And once he had Weidman hurt, he didn't waste any time. He got him out of there. He didn't let him hang around. So all credit to him. Will he get a John Jones fight off this? Maybe, maybe not. But this tonight belongs to Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, I mean, he could get an Anthony Smith fight off of this.
Well, Anthony Smith won't be ready until like February or so. And immediately after the broadcast, Smith came on and was like, hey, if he wants John Jones, he earned it. He can have it. I'm pretty much out until February or later. So with the hand injury.
Yeah, but February in fight terms isn't that far away. If the UFC's already, like, you look at their card schedule, they're running out to December 21st right now. Like, those cards are all booked, Reyes isn't about to jump in unless he wants to fight in Busan. Like, UFC 245 has 3 title fights on it already.
Yeah, fights also drop out all the time. And he literally took 0 damage here. So, as in prize fighting, you might as well get what you can while you can, so...
Yeah, I'm just saying if it's John Jones or wait for, if he's waiting around, he might be waiting around no matter what. Like, I don't even know what John Jones is going to be doing right now.
Nobody knows what John Jones is doing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, allegedly.
we only know who John Jones is paying to keep quiet at this point. That's it. Unfortunately, I think for Weidman, so much of light heavyweight, it's always like it feels the same thing for me with middleweights going up to light heavyweights. It's really weirdly similar to heavyweights going down to light heavyweight, where it's a division where it's all about your ability to just be a stone cold killer at all times.
Yeah,
and Weidman, even the best of Chris Weidman, like. That Anderson Silva KO is like his one stone cold killer moment.
No. His Mark Munoz knockout was like the most vicious thing I've ever seen in my life.
It was vicious, but it was also like part of a slow progressive beating from Weidman that led to that,
But that finish was like, that's his best finish ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, he's had some great finishes. I'm just saying that it's rare that Weidman's ever been the kind of dude who can just dial you up with one strike and turn and like that's the fight right there.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely not the current prototypical light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Like it looked like someone beating up someone's dad out there, honestly. Like Chris Weidman has gone full dad mode now.
Yeah, well he always had that kind of certain dadness to him at all times, but it's only in when you're fighting like I guess Reyes is 29, but he's a pretty youthful looking 29 out there.
Yeah, he just looks more athletic.
Yep, and he's a sharper finisher. He's a guy who he gets that opening, he's gonna find the strike to finish the fight. So
yeah, Reyes is a killer, man. He is light heavyweight.
Yeah. The trouble for Weidman is going to be because he, afterward he immediately said, "Oh, I'll come back better next time." Like there's no quit, there's no hanging him up in his mind at any point. It seems.
At least his dad wasn't there to make it even more awkward.
True. But without if he's just thinking, okay, I'm going to turn around, I'm going to get another fight, go do it better. Like as fast as Dominic Reyes finished Chris Weidman, this division is full of guys who have that ability.
Yeah, it's sad but true. Like it's like at the point where I fear for his safety out there.
Yeah. Like Khalil Roundtree isn't anywhere near title contention, but if you put him in there with Chris Weidman, how confident would you be that Chris Weidman survives the first round?
That's the thing, though, is I'm not confident that Chris Weidman can survive.
Yeah.
Period. That division, 205, they hit too hard. They're super athletes.
They really are.
It's not going to happen. I don't know, man. He's in a terrible spot to be.
Yeah.
And I wish he could commentate or something, but he can't even do that either, though. No offense, but he doesn't have the gift of gab.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him, man.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. And it's a tough spot, too, because he's actually big enough to be a light heavyweight. So if you were to be well, I guess I'll go back to middleweight. It's that's not any better. You're not serving yourself better that way. You're 6'2" with a 78-inch reach,
Honestly, he would have to leave the promotion.
Yeah.
Because that whole division just hits too freaking hard.
And unfortunately, maybe better or worse, it's better to be getting knocked out for $100,000, I suppose, than for $30,000. But I don't see the UFC cutting him loose anytime soon. Nah,
I doubt that.
He's going to be in Diego Sanchez, BJ Penn territory, where Penn had to assault multiple people for the UFC to finally be maybe we shouldn't be in the BJ Penn business.
Oh, man. And I feel like I have more things to say about how sad the situation is for Weidman than I do about how awesome this is for Reyes.
Yeah.
We learn nothing about Dominic Reyes in this fight. Other than he can get back to his feet and fight off a takedown.
Yeah, I think for Reyes, his big moment of being a contender came with that win over Volkan Oezdemir. Even if you didn't necessarily score that fight for him, he showed a lot of composure and consistency in that fight. He looked like a guy who could fight a collected fight for 3 rounds. And or was that even 5 rounds?
Against Oezdemir? That was
3, yeah. That was on the Till Masvidal card. And this is just the kind of name win that puts him in position to be a title shot. This is the kind of win where people turn around oh, well, he iced Chris Weidman, so yeah, let's see what he looks like against Jon Jones.
Yeah, but no one's picking him against Jon Jones.
Well, yeah, but nobody's picking anybody against Jon Jones right now.
Except Jon Jones.
Except Jon Jones, yeah. The master of self-defeat.
Mm-hmm.
In the co-main event, however, Yair Rodriguez, it's not like he didn't squeak by. He didn't just kind of pull one out, but he definitely got away with one against Jeremy Stephens.
He hung on to win a decision.
Yeah, he had Jeremy Stephens dead to rights and then poured on exactly the kind of offense. We're watching it. I'm watching him throw all these strikes, these wild hammer fists, these wild hooks, and it's just none of these are going to finish Stephens. They're just not. They're not targeted enough. They're not surprising enough. They're overwhelming, but they're just not the kind of offense that's going to get this finish. And they didn't. And then he really just had to gut the fight out until it was over.
Stephens is super tough. He's not someone who just shells up and will go out like that. He will keep fighting. He was even throwing strikes from his back just because he's such a fighter, Yeah. Someone as seasoned as Stephens throwing strikes from his back, that's survival mode.
Yeah. it's a great argument for Stevens, honestly, that Jose Aldo fight might have been stopped too soon, you know?
Perhaps. But it's if anything, this fight just made me want to see the 5 rounds we should have gotten.
Yeah.
Because that's a completely different fight.
Yeah, no kidding. Although it might also be a fight where Yair doesn't quite go so crazy. But it was remarkable just how fast Yair looked in this fight early on. And also, I think to his credit, really did fight probably the best outfighting performance early that I've seen him put together.
Oh, it was super smart. The intelligence of his game plan was phenomenal. Like, come out, throw really hard to get the respect of Stevens, and then use your kicks to keep him out of the pocket where he's the most dangerous.
Yep.
And frustrate him and make him get desperate.
And stay on that back foot. Use that speed. It's been kind of the big thing with Stevens throughout his career, is that for Yair throughout his career, rather, is that he's obviously so fast and dynamic. And this is the only fight I can think of his where he's ever just like stayed away from somebody for any amount of time.
Yeah.
He usually just will sit right in front of people and go to war.
But on the same token, I mean, this is probably the heaviest hitter that he's faced.
Well, I mean, he did just fight Chan Sung Jung. But...
I mean, the heaviest puncher. I mean, I think Stevens punches harder than Chan Sung Jung.
He might.
Arguably.
Either way, it was a great composed performance from Yair, even if he clearly badly lost the 3rd round after getting gassed out. And a gutsy performance from Stevens. I agree I would have liked to see the 5 rounds, but I also got to think pretty clearly, especially with how much they, kind of hugged it out and buried the hatchet at the end. I think both of them were pretty satisfied with the fight they got out of it.
Yeah, I mean, they both showed off. They both had their moments.
Yair got the feeling of like, I hurt you so bad that you almost quit. I am clearly better than you. And Stevens gets the feeling of, I toughed out a terrible round and came back and handed you your ass for the entire 3rd round. I'm clearly better than you. He didn't get the win, but it's going to be a fight where he's going to walk out of it and feel like, I in my own mind, I won that fight.
Yeah. And I mean, Stevens, he's taken tough losses before. Like, this ain't nothing new for him. So he'll be back and just as crazy as ever. And we'll probably go on like another 3-fight tear where he just murks people, and then another 3-fight slump where he gets murked or loses or whatever happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited because Yair's looking great, and he's going up the ladder, solidifying his position. And can we get him in Zabit? Like, can we make that happen?
Yeah, Zabit's got that Calvin Kattar fight, and I get the feeling if Zabit wins that, the UFC is just not going to bother with Yair. They're just going to give Zabit a title shot. It feels like an angle they've been cutting for the last year.
Mm-hmm.
But if Calvin Kattar wins that fight, I absolutely would love to see them put Yair again against Kattar. That seems like a no-brainer kind of top contender bout. They could also do if Brian Ortega beats Chan Sung Jung in Busan coming up in December.
Mm-hmm.
You could do Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez.
Oof, that's a crazy clash of styles.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what that would look like. I don't know. Especially after that Max Holloway fight with Ortega, I'm like, man, I don't want to see him get pieced up from the outside. But on the same token, if you get taken down by Brian Ortega, you're in a world of trouble. Yeah.
And in the meantime, if Yair doesn't want to wait, like if those things don't swing exactly right from he doesn't want to wait till December, Zabit gets the win and he looks like he's lined up to be the next title contender or whatever, they could do Yair versus Aldo.
Wow. That's interesting too.
Right?
Oh man. Because just when you think Aldo's done, he does some slick stuff and reminds you of just how violent he is.
Yeah. It would be. There are a lot of fascinating fights out there for Yair Rodriguez, honestly.
I'd watch him shadow box, like he's so crafty and just fluid with his striking. Like, it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous technique.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch. Really, really fun fight there. Big win for him, and a win that, like I say, kind of it sets him up for a feature bout at the top of the featherweight division in like 5 different ways. So, really a big win for him. And that brings us to a terrible fight that had no business being on the main card, and really, honestly, not even in the UFC, but whatever. The bar is pretty low these days. Greg Hardy, Ben Sassoli, and Hardy looked tight and he looked sharp for about a round, and then it was just leg kicks while Sassoli had none of the footwork to track him down, and it was an ugly, ugly fight.
Yeah, pretty lackluster, I'd say.
Hardy so clearly, even putting aside this whole terrible redemption narrative that makes no sense, and he has no reason to be redeemed and has done nothing to earn all of the chances and high profile shots he's getting, putting all that aside, watching the UFC go through the developmental steps with somebody in prime time who clearly needs like 2 or 3 more years of seasoning is just awkward as hell.
It is awkward. And I mean, it has to be, it's 2 things. One, he's obviously, being in the NFL, he has a following. Like there's just so many people, there's a small sector that like are fans, but there's an even larger sector that just wants to see him get nuked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's super athletic. Like he is more athletic than a lot of the heavyweights in the UFC. And that's just the reality of it.
Although it then has to be said, an inhaler?
Yeah, what the F? I've never heard of that. Like,
never.
Ever.
I had all of a sudden I tweet, I'm sitting there running our Twitter account. I'm just like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. There is no way this guy should be using an inhaler between rounds. And suddenly all these people are crawling out of the woodwork like, oh, therapeutic use exemptions in athletics is all over the place. Where have you been? It's like, I have never seen a fighter take any drug between any round of any fight legally. Ever.
No. And honestly, in my opinion, if you need an inhaler between rounds, the fight needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
Like that's Absolutely. A health risk. The fight should be stopped. Like if not, then bring back Vitor Belfort and give him all the TRT. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
How are we going to be picking and choosing what steroids are legal or what drugs are being allowed to, like, nah, like you can either fight as is or you can't.
Saw somebody out there saying like, oh, well, what if somebody only had one arm? Are you going to ban them from being like, I'm not going to let anybody compete with the prosthetic arm. You don't get to strap your prosthesis on in between rounds and club somebody with it.
No, it's getting out of hand.
It's just absurd. Like, you don't get to use drugs between rounds. There's no question about this. It has never happened. And all the fighters and even the UFC's own like regulatory official we're just like, no, this is terrible. What are you doing? This is clearly illegal. And suddenly afterward, White and, all these people are crawling out of the woodwork like, oh, well, he has a TUE. And the commission says, okay, when how many fighters are turning around and looking at that Boston or that Massachusetts commission and saying, like, wait, I could have used my inhaler during my fight? Why didn't anybody tell me this?
Yeah, that's crazy. Like that's really crazy.
It's absurd.
And because the commission is allowing it, like the chances of it getting overturned to a no contest are slim to none.
Yeah, I mean, Sassoli should appeal immediately. I don't even know that he will. He seems like the kind of dude who's just out there to scrap and just kind of take whatever comes to him. So I'm not
even. Credit to Sassoli, though, for actually trying and not being afraid of Greg Hardy.
Oh, yeah, no.
That was fun to watch, even though he couldn't close the distance and couldn't really land anything substantial.
Yeah, well, they hired a heavyweight to fight Greg Hardy, who's smaller than Sean Woodson, the featherweight on the prelims. So
he did have a cool mullet, though. I will say that
he did have a cool mullet. Yeah, this whole experiment is just ugly and dumb, and the sooner it's over, the better. But who knows where it's going, honestly.
That's the thing, though, is when are we going to get him against like an actual fighter? Like someone actually, because the skill set's not there. Like, yes, he looked more composed out there. Yes, he was using footwork. But like, yes, that fight was boring.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't fun.
It wasn't even boring. It was sloppy. You know, it's not the kind of fight anybody wants to watch. It's not good MMA. He's only been fighting for 2 years. Like, it takes most fighters 5 or 6 years to really get to form. Are we going to watch this for 4 more years of him just gritting out ugly, ugly decisions against the worst fighters the UFC can find for him to face?
I don't know, man. It's depressing, honestly. In every way, shape, or form. Like,
let's move on to something much less depressing, which is Joe Lauzon blitzing Jonathan Pierce out of the building for a first-round TKO win. That was beautiful. This
made my heart happy.
Yeah.
Like, this absolutely made my heart happy for many reasons. One, Lauzon being, one of the long-time UFC vets that, I've followed his career from start to where it is now. And he's been losing a bunch lately and like really bad. And to see him come out and just storm some noob's castle just was phenomenal. And the way he did it, like put hands on him, overwhelm him, get this crazy reverse half Nelson and just like, was he Damian Maia out here? Like, that was insane. I've never seen that move before. Like, what's more veteran than that?
It was a great win for Lauzon, and it's exactly what he needed to, as an action fighter that so many fans have just been ride or die with for years. Like, nobody wants to see their favorite action fighter just start getting drubbed out of fights immediately, like first round, first punch, knockout kind of fights. He really needed that turnaround. Hopefully his new strength and conditioning program, his new boxing program is giving him a new lease on life. He's also talking about looking towards the end of his career, so maybe he looks at this as an opportunity to go out on a win. I'm not going to tell him that he needs to, but either way, it was good to see him find a return to form in a fight that really had the potential to just be every bit as sad as Weidman's loss up at the top.
Yeah. He said it might be his last. It might not be. If he does come back, can he fight Jim Miller?
Again?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just forever, him and Jim Miller.
Yeah, like to the end of time. Like, what's better than that? What's better than that?
Women's flyweight bout before that, Macy Barber, Jillian Robertson, and Barber is definitely announcing herself as a problem in that flyweight division.
Yeah, she's scary. Her hands are heavy, and her killer instinct is in full effect. Like, the second she sensed Robertson was like starting to break, she's like, "Oh, word?" Bam, and just emptied the gas tank and gave her everything, just everything.
Yeah. Her confidence is way out through the roof. Like, she's talking about how after that fight, like, she knows Robertson came out there to try and win, and all credit to her. And it's like, man, that is some like Michael Jordan shade talk, championship mindset nonsense of like, I'm applauding you for giving me such a good challenge while I whooped you kind of thing.
Yeah, but Barbara can talk that trash.
Oh, sure. She's backing it up. That's what counts.
Man. And her call out of Paige Van Zandt is like extra juicy because she's been wanting that. And the whole thing about her sliding in Mr. Van Zandt's DMs, and I don't know, that's super interesting to me. Whether or not Paige Van Zandt re-signs with the UFC is a whole nother topic.
I think she still has one fight left on her contract before she rides out. So
I like that Barber's aiming high.
Well, and
she's going for that publicity.
It's not a more difficult fight necessarily than
it's publicity. It's
a publicity fight, and it's a smart move on her part to call it out. I'd kind of like to see her take on like honestly, like Lauren Murphy or somebody like that. Like if she wants to be the youngest champ, just climb up the ladder in a hurry, take big steps forward. But
it's more than that though, because she wants to get paid as well. Yeah, and I respect it. Like I respect that she wants to get paid. Might not agree with her tactics, but this is prize fighting.
I got no problem with her tactics, and frankly, you know, Paige Van Zandt. If I'm in Paige Van Zandt's camp, I'm wanting no part of that fight. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are feeling that way, especially after this performance.
Yeah, if I'm Paige Van Zandt looking at my options of riding out of the UFC and into a new contract, I certainly don't want to do it having been the new hot young prospect stepping stone, you know?
Yeah, yep. And I mean, there's also the chance that Paige never fights again.
There is.
Like that's a huge possibility.
Her injuries have been racking up. That arm does not seem to be healing well. So it's a fight against somebody who may just ghost the sport altogether.
Yeah.
But big win for Barber, and yeah, I mean the moment. It's too bad for Robertson because unfortunately these are just the kind of walls she's going to have to run up against, which is that she really needs to. She's going to have to become a much more confident striker because she came out there and you could see her trying to mix it up with Barber, and she was doing all right. And then the moment she started grappling with Barber and realized that she wasn't going to get Barber down and had to rely on her striking, all of the confidence in her striking game just evaporated.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh, wait. It's like, oh, yeah, I can land a good cross. I can step outside and land a little counter hook. I can, I got a good jab 1-2 here. And then it's like, oh, wait, I'm going to have to only do this the whole time. And then she just started fading out of that fight immediately.
And credit to Barber for just refusing to give up that takedown.
Yeah.
Like she just wasn't having it. That takedown defense was there. Yep. That was good to see. Good old-fashioned sprawling brawl.
Yeah, if Barber, with her kind of size and power, if she's going to be smart about keeping the fight where she wants it, she's going to be a problem for a lot of people in that division.
It was definitely good to see.
For that, Darren Stewart putting a halt on Darren Wynn's prospect run. Mm-hmm. And Wynn, like, I didn't think Stewart was going to be the dude to make Wynn encounter this, but at some point it really does have to become, can you really be a 5'5" middleweight? And you probably can't.
Yeah, especially if you can't even make weight.
Yeah, well, that too. But he got caught on the end of Stewart's jab and cross all fight. And, it's not like...
He also ate a bunch of knees once it did get in close and a bunch of elbows.
Yep. A lot of knees, a lot of elbows. And, he could get the takedowns, but being that small, like he couldn't hold Stewart down.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is size, and another part of that is Stewart's just been busting his ass and getting better and working on stuff and shots and working on his anti-wrestling, his anti-grappling. Like he's getting better. He's been working on his cardio, which is, it's been an Achilles heel for him. Like he looked in great shape. This might be like the best I've ever seen him look out there, to be quite honest.
No, he did. He did look great. And he, credit to him, especially, not only was his cardio in shape and not only did he fight off takedowns, but he actually kept up a high enough output in the opportunities that he had on his feet to win the fight. Because you look at the fight he fought against Bevan Lewis last time out. And it's like you had all the time and space to throw all the offense he wanted in that fight. And it was the slowest, ugliest, no fun fight imaginable.
Yeah, he even we're getting reports here that the Hardy win was overturned.
Yep. ESPN is reporting that Hardy's win has been overturned to a no contest due to inhaler use. So whoever told him that he could use that inhaler in competition probably meant in competition, like the day of the fight, right after the fight. Nobody gets to use an inhaler in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, that's silly. And a good thing. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so glad this happened.
Yeah, me too.
And it's almost like, you know what, Hardy, your fight isn't controversial enough. What can we do? What can we do to like mar this performance here? Like, what can we do to make people hate you even more?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Let's make you use an inhaler between rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah. No, I'm glad they overturned that too. I mean, it was just one of those things. It's totally absurd. You know, alcohol isn't illegal in competition. We're gonna have people drinking in the corner now,
taking shots.
Yeah,
after taking shots.
Oxygen isn't illegal. Can somebody take an oxygen tank and have their corner wheel it out, and they can huff it in the corner?
Oh man! And you know what's crazy is like, he's starting to produce a record that you would expect before he even got into this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like fulfilling the prophecy.
Well, you know, there's something to be said for a guy who's too violent to play in the NFL.
Yeah. Still, people will watch.
Yeah. No, I know. All right. Well, that's a little bit of good news there. Darren Wynn meeting some bad news, and he's gonna, I mean, fixing his weight cut is a big part of it, but he's also gonna have to maybe take a look at, like, can he make welterweight? Because he's gonna be at a significant size disadvantage in this division, and a lot of what he does depends on his power. Like, you know, you need to be Husamar Palhares out there if you're gonna be that tiny of a middleweight. You got to be the guy who, if he touches you, he breaks you. Can't be like, I'm just gonna hang off the neck of this 6'3" guy.
No, yeah, you need to be a Daniel Cormier at heavyweight.
Yeah,
and he's not.
No,
he's just not.
So,
but credit to Darren Stewart.
Rough setback for him. Big step forward for Darren Stewart. Looking more and more like he's capitalizing on the clear athletic gifts he had coming into the UFC. Before that, Charles Rosa picked himself up position of the night bonus with a win over Manny Bermudez.
Yeah.
And this fight may have only been 2.5 minutes long, but Charles Rosa was getting beat for like 2 minutes and 15 seconds of those.
Yeah, this also made my heart happy because Charles Rosa is an excellent dude. He's also a gourmet chef. Not a lot of people know that. He can cook his ass off. But, man, I picked him by submission because, A, that's my dude, and B, you know, he's got really, really good jiu-jitsu. But so does Manny Bermudez. So, like, once Bermudez took top position, I was like, oh, man, it looks like Rosa's trying to force these. Like, he's forcing this triangle. And, like, that rarely works at this level, and especially not working against someone who actually knows jiu-jitsu and is a proficient grappler themselves. But once he switched to the arm, I was like, wait a minute, that's kind of tight there. Like, can he hold this, or how is Bermudez going to get out of this? And then the fight was just over like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, what just happened? Was there a foul? Like, what's going on here? And then I was like, oh, he verbally tapped? Is that what happened? But, yeah, I guess Bermudez tapped out, man.
I mean, people were talking about Rosa had his toes in the cage when he cranked it and all that kind of stuff. But the plain and simple truth is that Bermudez stuck himself in that arm bar about 4 times. And what we saw out of him against Casey Kenny's kind of showed up here, which is that as a grappler on top of people, he can be a little complacent about his positioning.
Yeah.
You know?
He doesn't mind his P's and Q's.
Yeah, he can be a little too certain that he's got somebody trapped. And he got swept by a former flyweight twice in his last fight because of that. And here he kept putting himself back into the same armbar over and over again, and Rosa got it. And that's what, you know, it didn't matter that you're beating him for 2 minutes ahead of that. He tapped in a hurry.
Yeah. Man, this made me so happy. Rosa's been out for a long time. He's been one of those guys who's always been plagued with injuries, and he finally took some time off, rested up, and came out and got himself a win. Like, his nickname's Boston Strong. Like, in front of the Boston. Remember when it was the Boston Strangler?
Yes, I do remember that.
So good for him, man. And I'm glad he made some bank off this fight.
Yeah, no kidding. Dominic Reyes won the other performance of the night bonus, and Yair Rodriguez, Jeremy Stevens winning fight of the night. So
I agree with all that. So not only did Charles Rosa win his fight, he got his win bonus. He got 20% of Bermudez's purse.
Yeah.
And he got a performance bonus. Ka-ching!
It's a good day for it. I'm always glad to see guys on the undercard getting those bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
Women's flyweight fight before that, Molly McCann, Diana Belbita. Credit to Belbita. Walking into this fight, I was just like, Belbita's basically never won a pro fight before. Her bouts they're like reasonable amateur level bouts.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked like she's wild, kind of ugly, not very well trained stylistically, technically. But she looked a lot better in this fight, and she hung well with Molly McCann for a round before things really just kind of got out of hand.
Yeah, she came out and looked, I thought she looked quite polished on the feet out there, actually, I'll say. Like, she picked up some polish somewhere along the lines. And
her lead hand, especially her jab and her hook off her lead hand, both looked sharp, and they've caused all kinds of problems for McCann early.
Yeah, but come round two, how things changed. She, like, once she took that beating on the ground, like, all that polish was gone in the third. Yep. Like, she was so gun shy, and just it looked like she was just so afraid of getting taken down again that she just refused to open up.
Yeah,
and she was probably rocked, to be honest. Like, she took a lot of punishment there on the ground.
Yep, McCann, credit to her. She got the win she was supposed to get. Not quite as dominant as originally expected, but at the same time, she ended up 30-26, and she pretty clearly won every round. So,
well, there was a point deduction there in the second round.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why it was 30-26. Still pretty solid, strong win.
Yeah, a good point deduction too. I was happy to see it.
Yeah, 'cause she was warned. She didn't listen, and she actually prevented the takedown. Yep. Like, you have to deduct a point you have to. Good officiating.
For that, Sean Woodson, Kyle Bochniak, and this is a fight I was disappointed as hell that there was only one judge handed out one 10-8 round, because Woodson absolutely beat Bochniak pillar to post in this fight.
Yep. This dude, he fights for his body type.
Yeah.
Like, he plays to his strengths. Like, his legs are so long and his knees get up so fast, and he is so down to throw them. And he can time them exceptionally well, and he knows when to throw them, and they're pretty devastating. Like, I was shocked because he looks kind of awkward when he's like trying to do his Diddy Bop out there, and he's like, looks like a poor man's Roy Jones Jr. And he's, it's like, whoa, bro. It's like,
you look like Anthony Hamilton after 6 months on a desert island.
Oh, Zane. Oh my goodness. Oh, I can't even. I just can't with you sometimes. That's gold. That is gold. Yes, he does. They're probably the same height too.
That's what I'm saying. It's like he's 6'2" with a 78-inch reach.
That's nuts.
It is totally nuts.
And it's like he has that tall man lag in his hands, but like not in his knees. Not in his knees. And his takedown defense was there. Like, he was taken down a couple of times, but he was able to get back up.
Yeah.
Like, he had a standout performance here.
Absolutely. And like, I like what you're saying too about him feeling like one of the rare fighters who really fights to his body type as a tall man, especially, like coming off of that Thomas Gifford fight from the other week, where you see this really tall guy who's just walking in onto his opponent and eating huge shots all the time. Woodson looks like he fights both tall and long, which is, when he's outside, he's throwing jabs, he's throwing kicks, he's keeping his distance, he's maintaining range, he's fighting smart. And then when he's fighting inside, he's fighting tall. He's letting, he's he's creating angles with his knees, with his uppercuts, with punches like that, coming up from below Bochniak at angles where Bochniak can't see him coming because the height is messing with him. And it's just a really great use of his frame. It's going to be interesting to see, like he even said, that he doesn't have the power to really put people away easily, but it sounds like he knows it. And it's going to be interesting to see how that, how this incredibly lanky volume striking style carries him in the featherweight division.
I mean, there's plenty of, lanky. Look at Zabit. Look at Yair. Now granted, we're talking different calibers, like completely different levels, I'll say. But, it is a division where if you're tall and long, you can keep guys off of you and outside and just kind of pick them apart as they, at first try to find a way in and then get desperate and start making mistakes trying to force the issue and actually get on the inside, like Bochniak was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a great fight for Woodson. Really, really dominant, much more so than a 30-27 exposes. I'm looking at the punch stat numbers in here. Woodson landed 111 of 251 significant strikes to Bochniak's 42 of 151, and 150 of his 290 total strikes to Bochniak's 52 of 161. So tripling up on him in offense.
And like on top of the volume, like he was dropping him, he was rocking him. He hit him with like one knee that it looked like a knockdown, but somehow Bochniak caught himself and like stayed standing. Which I don't even know how that's even physically possible. But like he was consistently rocking this dude.
Bochniak is an incredibly tough dude. That was one of the biggest reasons I picked Bochniak coming in, is that I hadn't seen enough of Woodson's fights to think that he could throw the kind of volume he did, which is an absurd amount of volume, to be clear. And I knew Bochniak was too tough to be put away with one shot.
Yeah, I'll take Bochniak also. I thought the experience was going to do it for him, but man, Woodson impressed me. He showed up. He showed up.
Really did. That brings us to a bantamweight bout. Randy Costa, Boston Salmon, and
we all knew this was coming, right?
I mean, I didn't have any faith in Randy Costa. I'll admit. I didn't. But
it's not that I had faith in him. It's just that, dude, Boston is there to be hit. Like, he's there to be knocked out.
Yeah, I think that's much more clear. I mean, that's much more clear to me after this fight, certainly. I knew he's there to be hit. It's just with Costa, the way he throws and how wild he is, I just couldn't trust him not to gas after like 4 or 5 minutes, at which point Salmon seemed like the more technical fighter. But Salmon, like having a pressure counter game really only works if you're elusive enough to slip shots. If you're not slipping shots, you're just getting hit first all the time. And that's absolutely what happened here.
Yeah. I love the combos that Costa was throwing. Like the double right hand.
Oh, dude, he is all over the place with his strikes. He will just throw anything with full power from any angle at any time.
But I mean, he was landing at will. Like,
yeah.
Once like that first flush, clean punch landed to the face, it was like a wrap. Like Sam was just catching up the whole time and just, man, it was. I don't know. Someone needs to teach him how to block.
Yeah, I mean, especially like I say, he's got that pressure counter style. He wants to walk into people and then wait till they throw a shot, slip it, and throw a shot back. Like somebody's got to work on his punch slipping because that fundamental part of that is missing, and it can't be, especially not at bantamweight. Is such a weird division full of hitters for like 135 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
There are way too many guys in that division that crack incredibly hard, and Costa's one of them.
Yeah, it was good to see though. It was pretty fun. And the funniest part was Boston tried to like protest the finish as he's like stumbling away.
Yeah,
like his legs are just not there, and he's like, "What are you doing? What's going on? Why are you stopping it? I'm fine."
It's a good reminder that fight immediately following a KO. It's not the right time to ask too much of fighters. They don't know where they are, or what's going on.
Which is why I'm surprised Weidman. Anytime Weidman's on the microphone, I feel like he's about to retire, but just doesn't do it.
No, he sounds like totally certain that everything. He'll just be right back in there.
Yeah. Ugh. Oh well.
Yeah. For that, Sean Brady with a debut win over Court McGee. All credit to McGee. I think he really showed up to try and take this fight to Brady and not just kind of get outcrafted and outpointed by the better counterpuncher. And he really, it seemed like he had a lot of success late. It just he couldn't quite track Brady down early, and that cost him.
Yeah, man, Brady just started on fire.
Yeah.
He looked so fast and crisp with his stand-up that I was blown away. Like, I was blown away. Like, he was slipping. He was doing everything right. Like, he was a step ahead of McGee for, like, the first 2 rounds. Like, dropped him. He was cracking him. He just never let him get in a rhythm. He wouldn't let him wrestle. Like, it was brilliant. And then McGee just slowly started to kind of find his way back into the fight. And 3rd round, he really started cracking and started getting his own licks in, but it was, it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Excellent showing.
It's a good lesson for Brady because, I was watching him, his fights pre-UFC, and I really loved his game. Like, I really loved how controlled and relaxed he looked and how good he was at picking his shots and how good he looked on the counter, how well he built his counter game into a more aggressive lead punching game as the fight went on. And you saw a lot of the parts of that and the flashes of that here, but this is also clearly like, he needed to be tested by somebody who wasn't going to be awed by that at any time.
Yeah. He's tough, man. So much respect for him. And such a great story, too. So this was excellent for Brady. And like you said, a good learning moment without having to take an L.
Yep. Hopefully you can take the lessons away from this. Like, you got to be able to keep your defense tight all fight. You got to be able to push opponents back when need be, change the game up, change your style. You can't just depend on somebody to go away or to fade away from your shots because you've been hitting them hard.
Yeah.
If they don't, you got to have a backup plan. For that, middleweight and a huge debut win for Brendan Allen, who came out and, I don't know what it is with Kevin Holland. All he wants to do is bang with everyone, but you give him a grappling match and he just cannot resist it.
Honestly, I just don't think he liked what he saw on the feet. I think Allen was just too wily and down to bang it out that he was like, wait a minute. Let me go ahead and just try to grapple with this guy. But it was weird because it almost seemed as if like there was Holland just quit. Like, I feel like he just quit here. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he was tagging Allen up, especially in the second, like landing hard shots as Allen walked forward, but Allen just kept walking forward and walking him down. And it definitely seems like Holland is one of those fighters who he uses his grappling and his wrestling game as an escape valve. Like, it's always going to be like, oh, well, if I just don't like what's going on with the striking right now, I'm going to be able to take you down and grapple with you and outwork you. And,
it was a fun scrap, though, man.
It was a hell of a fun scrap.
Did you see that crazy, like, back behind the back punch he landed on the ground? Mm-hmm. I've never seen that before. That was so slick. Like, how long do your arms have to be for you to be able to do that? You need, like, all the length. Like, does he practice that? Like, is someone holding a focus mitt on the bottom and, like, he practices punching behind his back? Because that was clever. That was super clever.
Yeah. It was a cool fight, and it was a great intro to Brendan Allen. It's a great intro to his aggressive, scrambling, grappling, sub-hunting style. He's a fun fighter to watch, and this is a great way to get a win and jump right into the middle of that middleweight division.
What I really liked is how when Allen was on his back, he was constantly threatening with submissions.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't just trying to break posture or look for a stand-up or even look for a sweep. Like he was trying to finish the fight. And he's only 23. Like the dude is so young.
Yeah.
And didn't he call out Eric Anders?
Yeah, he called that. He's got a loss to Eric Anders. He's also got a loss to Anthony Hernandez and to dang it, just flew out of my mind. Trevin Giles. So 3 current UFC middleweights, any of whom he could fight next.
And I'll watch him fight anybody. He proved to be super exciting. I love that. He can fight anybody, and I'll watch.
Definitely a dude who looks like he just does not care at all who he's in against. He's always going to be going for the same totally balls out aggressive game no matter what.
I get the Nico Price feel, but like more rounded and more consistently winning.
At least a better grappler, like just a better natural pure grappler.
Yeah.
That brings us to our opening bout, Tanner Boser, Daniel Spitz. This fight was bad.
Yeah, but at least Boser looked like Little Country out there.
Yeah.
He looked like Roy Nelson, the salad version.
That's right. This was the Roy Nelson that we remember when he was on Tough, and he was like, he had this whole like campaign to get a certain number of like some followers or likes, and he dropped to light heavyweight, and then I think he totally got there and just was like, nope, never mind.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on the pizza version.
Yeah. Unfortunately, without all the big country power that made big country big country. But
yes, but he had the mullet, and he's got
jiggle.
volume. He's got volume.
He's got volume.
And honestly, he played the matador for most of this fight, and it's just downright taxing, right? Like it's so taxing, especially at heavyweight. So to see him to be able to do that and land volume while Spitz was pressing him, like that means something to me. Like that's pretty impressive.
I mean, I'm looking at the stats right now. He threw 151 strikes, landed 93 of them. Spitz may be among the most hittable fighters in all the UFC. But
dude, he was lighting up the leg.
What?
He was lighting up the leg.
Yeah, no, that Daniel Spitz's leg looked like Kuwato from Total Recall. Like there was, there was some mutant flesh growing out of his thigh there. It was not natural.
Yeah, it was not a good look. But I mean, I thought it was a decent performance.
Yeah, it was fine. It's just, it wasn't a pretty fight. It's not a fight you'd ever tell anybody to watch.
Yeah, and it's like when I watch heavyweights, I want to see that power. You know what I mean? I want to feel like at any moment this could just end. And like it looked like he was throwing the punches, but like they really didn't have the same zip.
No, this is more the fight where you're like, at any moment, please just end this.
Yes.
Much less on the at any moment, this could be over. All told, kind of just an uneven card for the UFC. Like Rodriguez Stevens was a ton of fun. Reyes got a big win. Lozon got a big win. Barber got a big win. But, it doesn't. A lot of what were supposed to be the big highlight moments of this card just didn't really feel like they stood out in the ways you'd hope.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Costa and Rosa, those awesome first round finishes, but they honestly don't mean much.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it boils down to is the relevancy of these matchups. Just, Woodson had a great performance, but like, so what,
Yeah, it's the big difference between a card like this and the Tampa card where you're talking about like, oh, Marvin Vettori beat Andrew Sanchez. I want to see Marvin Vettori fighting in the top 15 of that division.
Yeah.
You know, Marlon Vera gets a big win. I want to see Marlon Vera fighting in the top 15 bantamweight. Davison Figueiredo calls for an interim title shot after his win over Tim Elliott. And those are just prelims. Like,
yeah.
This card did not have that. Even big fight like Barber over Robertson, that's a good win. That means something for Macy Barber. But even Joe Lozon over Jonathan Pierce, it's mostly just good because we didn't have to see Joe Lozon get absolutely melted again.
It's true. And that finish was super unique and something I've never seen before.
It was really cool.
So there is that. But yeah, just and you know what? Greg Hardy's thinking up the joint.
Yeah.
That's never fun too.
No.
And the best part is the crowd just relentlessly booed him the whole time.
Yeah, no kidding.
That was, you gotta love when the crowd is conscious, you know?
Yeah. And at least, you know, also the fight was just terrible. So even if they didn't hate him, they hated that fight.
I actually put that in the results post. I was like, for Bloody Elbow, I was like, yeah, the fans were definitely booing, perhaps for the pace, but more than likely just because Greg Hardy's in the octagon.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. And the Inhaler situation.
Inhaler Gate, to wrap it all up. All told, Dominic Reyes maybe is staring a title shot in the face after this. It would probably be good for him to get one other big, like, top contender win, because Weidman didn't feel like Weidman is a top contender for light heavyweight going into this, you know?
Yeah, definitely not.
But big moment for Reyes to get that win. Hopefully sets up another big fight. And for Yair Rodriguez, it definitely opens up the top 5 or so of that featherweight division for him to get a top contenders bout next. So that's both pretty exciting things to come out of it, if nothing else. On that note, thanks everyone for listening. You can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. We will see you next week for UFC Fight Night, Maia versus Askren.